Hi, welcome to episode 67 of the American Tributaries podcast, where to break out of the bubbles we've all been living in, we're using modern technology to explore the various currents of people in our great country, kind of like a 21st century Lewis and Clark journey. I'm your host, Michael Whitten, here in Brooklyn, New York, and thank you for joining me in this exploration of America. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Tamer Kassis. Tamer and his family own the kind of, I guess, really one of the bedrocks of my neighborhood of Cobble Hill, Brooklyn, Bonafide delicatessen and café, which is about a couple hundred feet from where I am now to the northwest. Tamer, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you doing? And could you share a bit of your story?
Sure, Michael. Thank you for having me. So yeah, the store it started with my father maybe about like 25 years ago, and I was working there when I was younger, and then I kind of just always been around, and unfortunately, my father about like 7 years ago he passed away. So I kind of came in to take over and help run the business with my mother, Fera Kassis. So just so we've been there for my mother and I've been there for about 7 years running the shop, and it's been going really well. We love the neighborhood. I have two kids, a 4-year-old boy James and a 2-year-old girl Layla, and my wife Katerina. We met in high school actually, so we've been together about 15 years now, and we've been married about 6. And we live out here in Western Long Island, Nassau County, and I drive into the shop about 4 days a week, and I do some other things at home for the shop, and just go from there. It's been good, pretty good. Yeah.
How much time do you leave yourself to find parking when you drive in?
I Yeah, it's a good point. At least 5 minutes.
Uh-huh. Well,
Through
that's
the
not too
years,
bad.
I've definitely found like the little nooks and crannies of the parking world where you could kind of find a spot, or no standing, but I know kind of when you can park there a little bit, and I've been throughout the years I've been able to find these little nooks where you could park. And then every now and then, if you can't find a spot, I just park in the front and just double park, and then find a spot later on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So so did you plan to like run when your father was running it? Were you still
Yeah.
involved with it, or did you get kind of pulled from something else that you were doing?
I just had graduated MBA school from LIU in Brooklyn, actually. Yeah, and I was gonna kind of go into that in the corporate world, possibly consulting or some sort of maybe like bank management or something. And I kind of got pulled out of that to kind of help my mother run the shop, and went from there. But it's been pretty good. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, what was the? I guess what were the unexpected things? Like, I mean, I guess you already knew
Yeah.
everything, but I also realized that maybe once you have the responsibility, the burden,
Yeah.
it can change things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's before yeah. When the burden's on you, it's kind of like a 24/7 thing. I mean, I've through the years I've learned to kind of when I get home, I just cut it out, and I try not to think about the business, which is good. But yeah, it's kind of like a 24/7 thing. Things come up even when I'm not working in the shop, I'm at the house. You might get a call, oh, refrigeration's out. Oh, we just got inspected by the health department. We need to do this and that. So it's kind of like a 24/7 thing where you got to always be kind of alert for anything that might come up. But that's just part of the business, I suppose, particularly in New York City where there's always things coming up. And it's just, we dealt with the pandemic. Luckily we got through that. So you got to just always be aware and ready to solve any kind of problem that comes about. Before it was like I would work there, but I didn't feel that kind of burden. And then when I kind of came in to run the shop, you feel that burden a little bit. But through the years, I've learned to kind of cope with it and manage it, so it doesn't really affect me too much.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And how was the pandemic? I mean, I guess a lot of people were working either from home, but a lot of people also like
yeah.
were moved out of the neighborhood. Like, how did that work for you guys?
Yeah, the neighborhood's really great, honestly. Like Michael, and the rest of the neighborhood, they kind of supported us, very supportive of us. And the first 3 months was pretty tough as far as like we were closing the shop early, and I was only coming to work 2 days a week. But a couple of guys, Dario and Roberto, they scattered their hours, and they were working so hard for us, and kind of holding down the shop for the first 3 months. And with the help of the neighborhood always supporting us, we kind of got through that first 3 to 6 months. It was kind of rough, and from there it's been pretty well. As far as you said, we're like in a residential area, so people working from home, it actually wasn't too bad because they would come get lunch and stuff like that. I know a lot of places that if they're like in an industrial area or commercial area, they definitely, struggle with that kind of with the pandemic with lunch and breakfast. But yeah, it was rough to be honest. Everything was just a little bit harder to deal with because of the pandemic. You had to wear a mask. You had to, you know, wash your hands all the time. Be careful, how you handle customers. Be careful how you handle your food and all that. But we got through it, and we're happy to be, on the other side of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Aren't we all?
yeah, for sure. I know.
I mean, the thing I
Yeah,
think that when to me, my perspective of having like a public facing business like you have is that you never know what's going on in somebody's mind, like when they come in.
yeah,
So, like
it's,
so
it's
I'm sure you
true.
must see like all different slices of human nature during the course of a day or a week.
Oh, of course, of course. Particularly in our neighborhood, it's like you have. I mean, I think the median house price is like 1.7 million, the median, and then, yeah. So, but you also have people who kind of been there for 25 years who are paying like $1,000 a month rent. They've been there for a while, so you have such a good eclectic mix of people, and then so it is interesting, and then sometimes you have like the kind of like the homeless guy that walks in and is like talking to himself and yelling and stuff like that. So it's such a we always talked about it in the shop. It's such a mix of people that come into the shop. You have, like we said, celebrities, JJ Redick, stuff like that, and then you got people who kind of come in and aren't so in a good position in life. But we treat everyone with respect, and we treat everyone the same as long as they give us the same kind of respect back. To be honest, yeah,
Yeah. And do you I also imagine like I see like there's been a lot of like construction of late around. So you probably get a lot of
yeah.
like construction workers who are coming in and you're probably like their salvation with like cold drinks and lunch and stuff.
Yes, yes, we definitely do get some construction. I mean, they kind of took the corners away, which is kind of takes out like stop and go traffic that sometimes comes in the shop. They kind of took that away, but they definitely do make it up with coming in for breakfast, like you said, cold drinks and lunch. So they've been pretty good too supporting us because they know it's kind of like a little of an annoyance to be there, you know. But they've been supportive, and but I do think they still need like 6 more months to finish that project. I don't know.
Oh man.
It's they got yeah, I think because the city is so old, particularly like down there with the piping and everything, that it just, it needs a lot of time to kind of overhaul. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you
yeah,
gotta be careful. I mean, we want them to rush until they break a pipe that they shouldn't have broken or
exactly. I think 2 years ago they tried to fix a similar thing, and they didn't do it correctly, so that's why they're back. So
something. You
yeah,
got all the inside scoop on everything.
yeah, yeah. I like to ask questions. Hey, how long is it gonna be? What's going on? And yeah, I like to always discuss things, and because as the owner, you gotta know what's going on. You need an idea because I need to, set things up and plan accordingly based on what's in my surroundings.
Deliveries and like yeah.
Yeah, it affects my parking because sometimes, like I said, if I can't find a spot, I would have to double park in the front in the hydrant area. But now I don't have that. So, like you said, I need to give myself about like 5, 10 more minutes to kind of look for a spot
Yeah.
than I used to. Yeah.
So one of
Interesting.
the things that like has is that echoes in my mind whenever I'm walking past them. Like for anybody who's
Yeah.
listening, where you're located, where I'm located, we've been seeing a lot more traffic lately because they had to take the Brooklyn Queens Expressway and compress it from 3 lanes to two. So there's all this
Correct.
traffic. Is there an opportunity for you to be like kind of delivering coffee to people from the shop to somebody who's like frustrated and needs a drink of coffee or a Gatorade? Like, is there any way to do that with technology,
Deliver it.
especially
Deliver it to whom? To
to
like
the car,
to
somebody
the
in their car?
car.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a good point. Not we. I mean, we do have like Grubhub and DoorDash and Uber Eats, which like delivers our food and coffee
yeah.
to homes or to like construction people who working nearby and stuff like that. But to a car, it's a good point. And I don't know if there's any kind of technology for that. Is it? I suppose if the traffic is slow enough, I guess you could do that. It sounds a little
Which
dangerous,
it
but
seems like it is.
yeah. Yeah, but I'm sure you notice like the delivery workers on their e-bikes, they're like in and out of traffic anyway, so they probably wouldn't mind doing that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
We
Or
definitely,
like you can
yeah,
have like somebody you can have somebody like kind of hand it off as they drive by or something.
Like those people that kind of like stand with the water bottles or fresh fruit or something down on the side.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but
Yeah,
like you're right there. Like it just seems that
true.
there's, there's like I see
It's a
this
good
stuff, and
point.
I feel like there's, I guess like there's opportunity, like from I mean, you're a businessman, so like it
Yeah,
seems to me that sometimes there's opportunity in things, and not like opportunity like craven, like take advantage of this. I mean, you didn't create this, but now
yeah,
you have a lot of people who are stuck in traffic who aren't moving at all. Maybe they might be
it's
getting
true.
tired. They might need a Red Bull. They might need a snack. They might need coffee, whatever, something.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I have like a big flag on the side that says coffee, like one of those kind of like standing flags. So we do get a couple people every now and then that double park and come in for a coffee. The problem is like there's no parking really on the side, and all the spots are usually filled anyway. So for someone to kind of stop and go, they got to kind of like park in an awkward position.
Yeah.
So we do get that. But that's interesting. Yeah. The
Or you
problem
need
is
like a
though,
delivery person to like run out
yeah,
to the street and hand it off
yeah,
to the right car.
yeah, that's true. But like also a lot of people they don't have cash now, so we'd have to take their credit card and then go into the shop and charge it, and then it'd be right. Like it'll be. I suppose some people would have the cash on them to kind of do a quick transaction, but that's an interesting point. Yeah, no, it's a good. I like that. You have to think outside the box. It's a good point.
Yeah. Well,
Just
even
so,
actually, that
yeah,
takes me to another thing. Like in our neighborhood, we've seen. I mean, there was another delicatessen a couple blocks away from you on Baltic that closed recently.
yeah,
And then like I know, not so Staubitz is having problems. I mean, that's obviously more of like an old school Italian deli. And then there was the other place that just recently closed, Esposito's. So how do you
Esposito's.
guys? Yeah. So like, how do you stay relevant?
It's a good point. What Esposito's? What is which place is that? What kind of
That was
place
the
is
place
that?
on Court Street. That was like an old school Italian, like sausages. They had the big like
Oh,
pig, like
okay.
standing outside, like the big pig in like chef's outfit or something.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Yeah. How do we say relevant? It's a good point. I think nowadays there's a lot of like kind of like commercial corporate service you get at like local places, not local places, just in general, like at places you want to go to. So we kind of just keep to our authentic self and just good customer service and getting to know every customer, like yourself, we knowing you, and just being friendly with everyone. And then just when it comes to like our product, I'm always trying to provide some kind of healthy food, healthy alternatives for people as they change their preferences. And also, past few years, we've kind of had a boom with the delivery business on our side. That really helps because we're able to find customers outside of our area, little neighborhood. So that's able to generate a little bit more sales that kind of keep us afloat. Some of the places you're speaking of, they're a little bit more, I feel like they're more old school. They probably just didn't think of these new ideas to kind of stay afloat in this kind of tough economy. So you got to just think outside the box. You got to go with the times. You can't resist the changes because otherwise you kind of won't survive. And or sometimes shops they reach their limit, they reach their time, and maybe the owner just wants to retire and he doesn't have anyone to pass it on. So I think, yeah, I think actually Margaret Palka. I don't want to say for sure, but I think she might be closing as well. That's not to say that her business is not doing well; it's doing great. It's just she reached a point where she kind of is satisfied and wants to kind of retire. And I don't know. I don't think she's passing it on to anyone to run. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
Do you
don't. I
know?
don't think so. I
No.
thought when I drove by the other day, but I don't want to put anything out
Yeah, I
there
don't
to
want to
suggest
say.
one way or the
Yeah,
other.
yeah. But so yeah, so sometimes just businesses run their course and it's time. But for us, we just kind of just changing with the times and just like I said, being our authentic selves and providing that kind of unique service where you don't always get in a city like New York.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
mean, I feel like the what I mean, really, I mean, in my mind, when I think of your place, I think of it like, I mean, I guess I would like probably default call it like more like a bodega, which I'm not sure if that's the right terminology. Do
yeah.
people make that kind of? Do they use that term as well when they refer to what you guys do?
Sometimes, yeah, yeah. We started. My father started as a bodega, and then like when I took over, I kind of through the years I kind of tried changing to more of like a sandwich shop, cafe with that also provides groceries and beer and stuff like that. So I kind of think by me kind of changing it a little bit in that sense, I do think that helped us a little bit because we're a small shop. The best way to kind of maximize our space is to do sandwiches and coffee and focus on that. We don't have a lot of space to kind of like fill it up with groceries and essentials. So I feel like that kind of helped us stay afloat during the pandemic. People wanted to have a quick breakfast, a quick lunch, and that actually kind of flourished our delivery business. So it started as that and then through the years I kind of changed into more of like a sandwich shop cafe. But we also have beer, like a lot of beer. We have a walk-in beer fridge, and we have some groceries, essentials, some cigarettes. But I kind of changed it a little bit through the years.
Okay, so the bodega is really more of almost like a compressed grocery store. Like it's got more stuff to it. Is that the
Yeah,
big difference?
yeah, yeah. But I think in Brooklyn, if you think bodega, like you might think possibly of like that place on Baltic that closed. It kind of like is mostly grocery, and they got a little deli section, just like but they're not really there to make food. Really,
Right.
we're like gourmet in the sense that we make our own chicken cutlets, we make our own grilled chicken, we make all our deli salads.
Yeah.
We make fresh food, and we make our fresh eggs. We cook fresh eggs. They don't make the fresh eggs, but we cook it fresh. So these other places, the food part is a secondary or tertiary. For us, it's a primary kind of thing that we focus on, and I think the customers kind of recognize that because everyone says they kind of enjoy our food a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's good, So yeah, I think that's just the main difference. Is a lot of when you think bodega, you might think more like a grocery store slash hangout slash kind of essential place with some food. We're mostly food with the other part a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah.
yeah.
But like I think so. Then like a deli, like your place or bodega, those are like kind of like to me like New York City institutions. You don't see those at nearly, certainly not nearly as often as you see them in New York. And
Yeah.
I think they're a pretty special part of the city.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I don't. I'm interested to know like other big cities. Do they have like these kind of corner store places like in other like Chicago or like Toronto? I'm not sure. Like because the corner store is a staple because you got like the big buildings, you have the big communities, so they need somewhere quick to kind of go and get their stuff. I'm curious to know. I don't know if you know if
I
there
don't,
is like
I my wife's from LA, and I don't can't think of seeing any of them. I think it's
yeah.
7-Eleven is probably what ends up taking the spot, or like down like when I was in Philadelphia, they had Wawas,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, it's true. More
French,
franchise type convenience shops. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
it's
and
true.
I think I've seen 7-Elevens, but like just to be honest, like I feel like I would rather trust the neighborhood deli than go to 7-Eleven.
Yeah, yeah, and you're not getting any customer service when you go to a 7-Eleven. You're just a ticket counter in the front. Okay, bye. They don't want to really. Yeah, I think it's also. I think New York City is a unique spot as far as like migrants and immigration. My father came here from Palestine in the Middle East. So I think a lot of people came to New York City, in the '60s and '70s and '80s. So when they came, they had to find their own way, and I think also for Hispanic people, they do this as well. And finding their own way was kind of opening up their own shop, and then that just kind of flourished into that corner store shop where you kind of have everything, and you're a convenience shop, and then they started bringing in the deli part into it. So I think it's part of that immigration experience and migrants coming in and trying to find something they could do to support the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think New York City is kind of the cornerstone of that because it's also the cornerstone of immigration too, through the
Yeah,
years. Yeah.
yeah. It's funny. Like I've been thinking about this, but like New York is. I feel like there's a lot of people that I mean definitely come here and will stay, but there's a lot of people that kind of pass through. Like there are people who live here for a while. Maybe they go to school. Maybe they start their career here. They move on. But I think that that's actually one of the strengths of the city is that there's always like kind of like a turnover. Like people move, they come here and then they go on. And to New
Yeah,
York City's I guess to the advantage of New York City is that there are a lot of people that have passed through New York. They picked up something about New York
that's
when
a
they
good
move on to
point.
wherever they are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They pass through and they kind of share their knowledge and share information too as well. And the people who are there kind of learn from them. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I guess you could also say it's on the flip side, like they kind of come to New York City kind of pass through. I feel like some towns in New York City might lack the sense of community and community pride that because you said there's a lot of turnover, people always moving. Even within the city, they're moving from apartment to apartment, or like you said, they're passing through from this city to another. So I do think it lacks that kind of pride of community a little bit. Some towns in New York City, but that's just part of, like you said, part of the nature of it.
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah,
that's true, and we've been lucky. I mean, for the last 12 years, our kids have been going to the elementary school, and we just finished. But it was really this having this school and having that kind of area where you're forced to meet and interact with people from the neighborhood that made a big difference. And I think with that done now for us, it does kind of beg the question, like, so how do you continue to have a connection to the neighborhood, to the people, a regular connection to the people? And I think that, to me, at least, as we're talking, one of those answers is just kind of like it's like your local shops. And I think to me that's there's a real value in that I mean I've long overlooked as well. And I think it makes a big difference if you go to the same store, see the person working there, run into the other people that go there.
yeah, I agree. I agree, and also particularly my mom. She's been there for longer than me. She was working at the store a little bit too with my father. She's always says that we have kids that come in who are like 16, 17. She knows them since they were born. So that's also a benefit. You kind of, that experience, you see the neighborhood growing with you, and you don't get that in other places, and that's something you can't put money on. It's not about, the business side. It's just kind of a pride sense of community and knowing the people growing up, and you can't put a price on that.
Yeah. So how old were you when do you remember when you moved to New York from Palestine?
I was actually born here. I was born in
Oh, okay.
Astoria. Yeah, I was born in
Okay.
Astoria, Queens.
Okay.
And yeah, and we moved to Long Island when I was about 7, and I've been here ever since. Yeah. My father, he came here when he was about, I think, 20 in his 20s. He came here to New York. Yeah.
And was the first thing he did open up the shop, or was he doing something else before that?
He was an electrician for a little bit, like, and then he cut hair for a little bit. He did like a bunch of different things, and then him and his cousins got into like the deli business in New York City a little bit, and then that's how it started. Yeah. So at first he tried different things, as do, I'm sure, a lot of immigrants that come in here into New York City. They try various things, and then they eventually kind of stick to one thing and pursue that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So there used to be a Bonafide 2 deli, right? Was that part of your family's?
Yeah, that was my father, but that was also his cousins that also owned it, and they kind of, yeah, we that kind of split up in a not so great way, to be honest.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's okay. And then the landlord didn't want to renew our lease, so we kind of transferred all our attention to the store we have now. The store that we had now before was kind of just like a little convenience shop.
Mhm.
So so then we kind of transformed. We added like a kitchen system to it and transformed it into more like a deli. About like maybe 15 years ago, we transferred it into that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So how do you? I mean, like you've got the deli. You can kind of, I guess, tweak things. You can adjust and adapt. Is there ever any plans, like to get to get bigger? To I don't know, accommodate the next generation? Is this enough of a handful that you have already?
It's definitely a handful, but I definitely do have plans to open up a second shop somewhere in another neighborhood of Brooklyn for sure. Is right now with 2 little kids and a wife and a house, it's a little bit the time, and with the business we have now, it does take up a lot of time. But once my time frees up a little bit, I definitely do plan to open up a second shop within the next couple of years. Yeah, just to help grow and just something new, a new project, a new experience. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the plan.
The Gowanus area has got a lot going on.
Go on. Where? Okay.
Uh,
Is that near Williamsburg? Where is that
No, no, it's
exactly?
just like if you go down, like if you just take Union Street down to like Bond,
Okay.
and then if you go like left or right, you'll see that there's lots of new buildings going up like to the right,
Okay.
on both sides of the water. So it's going to be a lot of like newer buildings and stuff. But there's a place called Bond Street Cafe that's there. That's like not they don't really they do cook things. It's kind of like higher end type stuff. Like it's more like $15 to $20 for like sandwiches that have, I don't know, some alfalfa sprouts on them or something. I don't know. But they definitely don't
Yeah,
have any deli like you. But there's a lot. I think there's still a lot that's going to be happening there in the next few years.
go on. Okay, thanks for that tip. I'll definitely keep an eye out for that area. Yeah, yeah, I'm looking. It's I'm a family man now with two kids and a wife and a house. So it's like growing the business is definitely on my list. But right now, enjoying my two little kids and my family is my top priority, to be honest. And then when the time is right and my mind is right, I'm gonna attack a second business because it's definitely one is a handful. Having two is obviously gonna be double as difficult. So I got to be physically and mentally sharp and ready to go after it. Yeah, there's a lot of sleepless nights with two little kids.
Yeah. Yes.
I, barely get out of bed most mornings. Trust me. So
Yeah. No, no. Now it's
yeah,
just about survival. I totally
exactly. Just
understand.
trying to make through, and then with the pandemic too, just even added on top of it. So but soon enough, I feel like the time will be right, and I'll attack a second shop. Yeah.
You're regretting this podcast. Like I'm talking to this guy Michael, and he's pressuring me to start another business. No.
No, 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 because no, you're not the first person to say that. No, no, no. It's always definitely on my mind. Yeah. Okay, the lamp went out. No, yeah. So yeah, no, it's always been in discussion and stuff like that. So that's why I was just, giving my response to it. But
Yeah.
no, 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 you're
Do you,
not the first person to think of that or mention it. Yeah.
do you ever think of like integrating some of like I guess like the like Middle Eastern type like foods into what you're doing?
Not necessarily. I feel like that's just going to complicate the matter. I kind of like to focus on what we do best, and I know like some, like you said, some bodegas or delis in Brooklyn or in the city, they kind of just they do incorporate like halal food or stuff like that, chicken and rice, and I just think that's too complicating. I don't want to complicate the matter, and just I kind of like to focus on what we do best. And yeah, I mean, if that was the case, it would be kind of opening up like our own Middle Eastern kind of food shop, like falafel or something like that. But that might be something down in the future to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the most popular sandwich at the that's ordered at the shop?
It's good. Probably like a bacon, egg, and cheese, or a sauce, egg, and cheese,
Okay.
on a bagel or an English muffin or something.
Right.
Yeah, it's an egg sandwich.
All times a day.
Uh, yeah, we serve breakfast all day, and then probably the most probably eaten lunch sandwich is probably just like a turkey sandwich or an Italian combo sandwich.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Um, so I was thinking about this. Bacon, egg, and cheese, ham, egg, and cheese, or sausage, egg, and cheese. Which is the best? What do you recommend as a professional?
The sausage, egg, and cheese,
Really?
because because the flavor profile from a bacon to sausage is pretty similar. But when you get a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich, particularly like on a bagel, you're getting the sausage, egg, and cheese like kind of in every bite because we use like a sausage patty. It's just I feel like it's a better experience overall. With the bacon, you're getting the bacon, but you might have a few bites where the bacon's not there because they're strips. They're not like kind of a patty. So if you want a better breakfast experience, I would say go with like a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich. Yeah.
All right. Never thought
Interesting,
about
right?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought
Yeah.
about that.
We have a lot of time to think about egg sandwiches.
Well, then really
That's what we do. So
that also asks the question like, why aren't they making a slice of bacon that can be like that can fit an entire sandwich?
that's a good point. I do think they have Canadian bacon, which is kind of like ham,
Right.
but and you grill it, you sear it on the grill, but it's not really that tasty. So
Yeah.
we never brought it to the shop. But
Okay.
I suppose that would be it. But yeah, you're right. Like a nice, just I guess it's not. It's a lot more processing they have to do than just a
Yeah.
strip, right? To make it
Yeah.
a square.
But that would be interesting. But I've never thought
That
about
would
that. Okay, so thank you. This is a critical piece of information.
change. It'll change your morning, right? Your
Yeah.
morning, experience.
We,
Yeah.
one of the I've been in the wine trade for 12 years now, and one of the probably most sublime food and wine pairings is a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich with champagne.
Oh, interesting.
It is sublime.
Really? Like it would
Yeah.
be like kind of like a brunch setting where you have the champagne and the bacon, egg, and cheese, or like
Yeah. Well, I guess like, because I was in the trade working for a distributor, like after like I might have some leftover champagne from the day before, and it's still open the next morning, and it's the bubbles stay to the next day. So it's just like you have bacon, egg, and cheese, and you pour yourself a little bit of champagne.
okay, I
It's
never heard that.
really good. Oh my
I
god,
have to
it's so
try that
good.
one. Yeah, I have to try that one day.
Because it's like the oils and the grease of the sandwich with like the acidity and the bubbles of the champagne. It has to be champagne, not prosecco.
Okay.
Champagne is the best. You could do like some other wines that are made like exactly like champagne, but if you can ever do it, and what I'd say also is that I've done this with like more fancier bacon egg and cheese sandwiches, and it's not the same thing. Like it's got to be
It
from
has to be
the
like
like
greasy.
neighborhood
Okay.
deli.
Has to
Yeah,
be greasy bacon, kind of a soft roll and
yeah,
fluff. It
exactly.
has to be, yeah, as opposed to like the fancier ones. Yeah, it's
Yeah, you
true.
don't need it on a croissant or something. It's not gonna work.
No, no
A
ciabatta bread
ciabatta,
or yeah,
exactly.
ciabatta. It's too
Yeah,
much bread, ciabatta.
yeah,
Too much bread.
yeah. Well, I guess you probably have to stay on top of like new like bread trends and stuff, at least to know whether or not you should consider having it, don't you?
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah, that too. I mean, we have our staples like the Kaiser rolls. Actually, it's called sand rolls. They're a little bit different than Kaiser. We have the sand rolls, or like heroes and bagels, English muffins. But yeah, because definitely through the years, people they want to eat less carbs, so you gotta kind of look like low carb wraps that we might have sometimes, or gluten free wraps. But a lot of times, if people want just like a low carb option, we just tell them to kind of gut the bread out and kind of just it becomes thin. Yeah, yeah. So some people they kind of just gut out the bread. But yeah, I try to keep up, but I also try to just keep our staples. I don't want to. Plus, you don't want to complicate the kitchen area because the guy, one or two guys might be making a ton of sandwiches. You don't want to have like 50 different things he has to kind of figure out. It affects the efficiency and the productivity of like making the food and getting at the customers quickly. So I kind of try to keep the kitchen kind of efficient and not add too many different kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things I noticed with like restaurants was that once I think post pandemic they have more focus, so there's less different food options, and I think having like a lot of options is a luxury for a customer, but obviously complicates things for from the operator standpoint.
Yeah, yeah, but also the customer's point of view. Sometimes people walk in, they like look at the menu. We might only have like maybe 30 items on the menu, and they still kind of feel confused what to order. So sometimes when there's a shortened menu, it's just food, So it kind of helps the customer kind of just pick something, quickly and not really think about it too much. But at the same, yeah, and also like when the food prices kind of went up, it kind of caused us to kind of really tighten the kitchen and eliminate food waste. And I think a lot of places did that. And besides being better for our bottom line, I think it's also better for the planet and better for the environment to kind of cut food waste and just be more efficient in that way. So I think that's one of the benefits that came about from the rising food costs.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then what if so for drinks? What's the popular drinks?
Popular like drinks that we make, probably just like
No,
a
or no, the drinks that they people pull from the refrigerator.
oh, okay, probably a Gatorade. A Gatorade, bottled water, or Gatorade, Coke Zero. Those are probably the three most popular drinks.
Really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, Gator. People love Gatorade, particularly during the pandemic because it was like they needed electrolytes for everyone was getting sick all the time and all that. So Gatorade, there was like 6 month period where like it was hard to even get Gatorade to sell from our supplier. Yeah, because there's just such a shortage of it. People were just drinking it everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess everything was in shortage, but I never heard about Gatorade. That's surprising.
Yeah. Yeah, we experienced a lot of shortages during the pandemic. It was tough to get like certain plastic cups and plastic containers and all that. I had to like, call different suppliers to try to find it. Yeah, there was a lot of shortages and a lot of like, things you had to kind of maneuver around during the pandemic, but we got through it, so
Yeah.
we're
Good.
happy.
So things are kind of more or less back to normal.
Yes, yes. It's actually better now than it was years ago in the sense that everything we do now is like we said, we tightened everything up, particularly in the kitchen and everywhere out throughout the store. So everything now is a little bit more free flowing and not as hectic. And we have all the systems are down. And if anything comes up, I kind of just refer to my system, and it's been better like that. Yeah, it kind of that was one of the positives from the pandemic is making things more efficient and kind of just streamlining everything and less of a burden on your mind as far as thinking about this and that, and it's been better actually.
Oh, good. So, how is it working with your mother?
Yeah, it's
As you want to punt on this
oh,
question, I understand.
you went to the deep end right away. No,
Yeah.
it's honestly it's great. It's we we have a business relationship, but at the same time we laugh a lot. And of course, working with your family, particularly your mother, you're gonna butt heads sometimes. You guys we think alike because she's my mom. She raised me, so we definitely butt heads a few times. But 99% of the time, we're laughing and giggling and cracking jokes, and it's really a great time. It's something I would never forget. And I'm glad she has me. A lot of times sons they go on and they don't see their parents as much. So I'm glad she has me to be around and kind of be there for her and give her a couple of laughs every now and then. So overall, it's great. Yeah,
Does she live near you back in Nassau County?
yeah. She lives about like 10, 15 minutes away.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. She lives in Herricks, Long Island.
Okay. And do
Yeah.
you guys take turns coming, or do you work together usually?
Uh, we work together about 2 days a week, and then the other times we take turns. But we actually work together about 4 days a week, and then on my day off, which is today, she's in there, and we have a couple kids at night that come in and help her close up and stock. So the one day she's there without me, but with the other kids, and a couple of nights she takes off about 3 days a week, and I'm there with a couple of kids, and we work about maybe 3 days a week together at night. Yeah,
And what time do you guys open and what time do you close?
we open at around 7 and we close around 8.
Okay. And
Yeah,
what time then do you have to get in to open on time? And what time do you leave after?
our my guy Dario, who's been with us for about like 25 years, actually, he opens the shop around 6:30, kind of preps things a little bit, cleans up a little bit, gets things ready, and then he opens the door around 7, and then around 7:30, our other guy Roberto, he comes in and helps with the day, and then my schedule for the most part is that I come in around 12:01, and then I close the shop, and then maybe once, sometimes twice a week, I have to go to Restaurant Depot. So I leave my house around 8, 9, go to Restaurant Depot, either in Queens or the one in Long Island or even the one in Brooklyn, and get my supplies. And then I go into the shop and I close up that day as well. And then Sunday mornings, I come in the morning. I work from about 8 to 5 on Sundays.
Busy.
Yeah, busy. Yeah, yeah, but I definitely. Yes, but like I said, I definitely we learned how to kind of make things efficient and streamlined. So I'm able to get like a week off here every now and then, or a couple nights off. My wife and kids want to go away for a couple nights. I'm able to kind of text the couple kids that we have in the neighborhood. Hey, I'm taking off today. Can you go fill? Can you go stock and help close up? And so we definitely found a way to kind of find time for my mother and I to enjoy in life, besides just the business.
That's great. It's hard to
Yeah.
get that balance. A lot of people spend their entire life struggling against it.
Yes, yes, I know, I know. Particularly like immigrants coming in. Like I know my father, he worked about 7 days a week, and that's all he knew. And a lot of immigrants that come in and work is all they know, which is great. And then me being first generation, I kind of feel like I'm the benefit of my dad's hard work to kind of be able to sit back a little bit and spend more time with my kids, and that he didn't have time to do that because he had to grind.
Yeah.
And I'm taking advantage of him kind of putting in that hard work and being able to spend more time with my kids, and all because of my father and other fathers and mothers who kind of came in and worked very hard for their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's I would, and I only my exposure to this is just my wife's family immigrated from Taiwan here, and I think she was like 8 when that happened. And when I try to put myself in those shoes, it seems that if you're transplanted in a different area, you're kind of like all you have is like your blood, sweat, and tears. Like all you've got is, and there's probably a more looming sense of an existential crisis just because you're there and you've got no safety net. You've got to make money, you got to take care of your family,
Yes,
so work. Is that right?
yes, yeah, I agree. I think the mind adjusts based on its environment and circumstances. So if you put a human in a pit of fire, for example, get out. I think they'll figure it out because so, like you said, yeah, when they come in as an immigrant, they don't have any money to their name for the most part. They don't have like a parent who has a ton of money or just enough money to back them up just in case things don't go right. So they kind of have that fire in them to do that and work really hard. And me being first generation and other first generation kids, we have the benefit of our parents' hard work to kind of have that solid foundation where we don't have to worry as much about finding our footing or providing for our families. So that's what I think family is about, is kind of continuing that generational work and pride.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
And even and like for even for me, my great grandparents immigrated here from Italy, and they settled in the West Village, and they had like I think a tailor shop, and I think I forget how many siblings my grandfather had, but same story, just 100 years ago.
Yeah. Oh wow. So he came in 100 years ago, you said, or
Yeah, it was. I mean, they must have immigrated probably like around like 1900 from
oh wow.
Calabria, Italy, and
Okay.
then settled in West Village. I've gone past where they're built, where their building would have been. It's not there anymore, but
Okay.
it's kind of wild how those stories they come up. It's like same story, different shades, but same thing.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. I think we're all alike. My wife's family, she's Portuguese. Her family, she's first generation as well, Portuguese. Her family, her parents were born there, and through the years, as I get to know her family more, I realize they're just like my Palestinian family. They kind of family oriented and kind of thinks in a similar fashion. So I think we're all more alike than we think. It's just we got to get to know each other more, and we realize we're all kind of think the same a little bit for the most part. And feel like we could break our differences if we just get to know each other a little bit more.
Yeah,
We'll figure out that we're more alike than we think. We just kind of, I think in today's society we kind of just focus on the differences because it's dramatic. It gets the attention. But if we kind of just like what we're doing now, sit down and get to know each other, we go, oh wow, that reminds me of this and that, and it's relatable, and we could kind of move forward that way.
yeah. Well, the thing I've been trying to think about, like, what is it that is like, what's American? Like, what is it that defines America, and not like a particular position on a subject, but like what is a characteristic we all change it? And I think this started because I read somewhere or heard somebody saying that they think that there's like a an American DNA, and to me it makes sense in that everybody who's here, whether if you're a Native American, you've had to adapt and adjust, and you've had your own challenges that I can't even fathom. Same if you are, African American, but like for everybody, we've all had our lives upended. Our ancestors or ourselves kind of left the comforts of the old country, or were forced to move from wherever we were to come
Yes,
here to live without a safety net and to get by, more reliant on yourself and
yes,
less reliant on just on anything else, because all you had is yourself. So there's a certain, I think, to think that Americans aren't more independently minded would be to go against just the idea that that's what we all come from, is people who are crazy enough to say, my family's lived in Palestine for as long as there's history, and I
yeah,
think it's actually better that I leave here and go to a different country where there's 8 million people in the city and I know X amount of people, if anyone, and I'm going to make a
yes.
go of it. Like, that's insane.
It's true.
That's
I
an
was just I
insane
was just
thought
thinking that as
process.
yeah, Michael. I was just thinking that too. Like You could say that, the Americans are kind of an evolved human, to be honest with you. That's like you said, psychologically tougher because they could have just kind of been stagnant and just stayed in their hometown and kind of just toughed it out. But they wanted a better life for themselves, but particularly for their future kids. So they made that voyage. And now my generation is kind of like that human that had the courage to kind of come out and do that. So you're right. I think that could be said. The American spirit is that kind of courage to change or to do better and to keep progressing for better. I feel like yes, that's a good point. Yeah, I was just thinking that. It's a good point.
And it's a blank, and the United States is a blank slate relative to most other areas. Like, I mean, I don't know much about Palestinian history other than how complicated it is and how deep it goes. So
Yes.
I don't. I mean, did you ever find that your father did he bring up your Palestinian culture and history? Did he not bring it up because he wanted you to like? What was that like for you?
No, we spoke Arabic in the house. I know some Arabic. I understand it really well. I speak a little bit of it. We talked about it a good amount. I mean, the infamous conflict Israel
Yeah,
Palestine. It's
yeah,
been been going on for a generation at least.
yeah.
We talked about it. I visited Palestine twice. I got baptized there actually when I was age of 6. I
Mhm.
got baptized in Jerusalem. That was a nice experience, and
Wow.
I've been there twice. It's when you're there. When I was there, from what I remember, I was there when I was 6 and I think 12. It's when you're there, everyone gets along, everyone's great. So I do think the scope of what's going on is a little bit insinuated and dramatized. I do believe that. So you only hear about the deaths or the killings or the incidents, but you never hear about the times where an Israeli or a Palestinian get together and start a family or start a business together or build a road together. You never hear that because it's not going to get any eyes. So I do think that part of the area is being kind of encompassed in that dramatic, kind of view. But I do think it's better than it is, that
Mhm.
it is portrayed. But there's obviously a lot of work to do for sure to get it, into a
Yeah,
better place where people aren't being, killed on both sides. I think that's terrible.
yeah. There's a book that I read recently called A Paragon by the author Colin McCann, and it's about I don't know if you've heard of it,
No,
um,
I haven't. No.
but it's about two fathers from each side of the conflict. But it was an Israeli father whose daughter had died from a suicide bomber, but then it was a Palestinian father whose daughter had been killed by an Israeli soldier, and the real palpable friendship and movement that they started across those, or maybe even because of those differences and similarities.
Interesting. So it's a true story. They kind of became friends after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an ideal example of what should happen. Is you gotta people when things happen, people kind of like they emphasize the difference and they want to pull apart. No, this is a time to come together and say, "Hey, this happened to everyone. It happened to both of us. It happens in different ways, but the end result was the same. We both lost the child. So let's come together. We need to come together in general in this country, but particularly in Israel, Palestine. And I think the new generations they're starting to realize that. A lot of what you see now is an older generation, older thoughts, very prideful, very arrogant on both sides. And they just kind of, but I think with time, I think it will change. But the problem is the longer you wait, the more lives are lost and the more headache is realized, So time is of essence.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Is there anything that you wish people understood about what happens behind the scenes in a deli that they might not appreciate, or just something like if you could pull back the curtain? Um, is there anything that you could relate to people, share with people?
Behind the scenes.
Well, just, I
But
think that there's stuff like people you see your kid's teacher, they're in the class, but you don't necessarily realize that they spend 4 hours before and after class getting ready and dealing with lots of other things. Is there
I
anything
see.
about the operation of a deli that people might take for granted, but is a lot more work than they appreciate?
Possibly. Yeah, like maybe like when I'm actually like when I'm working the cash or working the deli, Sometimes I might be out of it, but I'm at the same time, I'm working, but I'm also thinking about, hey, what do I need to do in an hour? What's tomorrow? We have to set this thing up for tomorrow's catering order or something. So particularly for me, I don't know, maybe the other guys they might think that too a little bit, but for me as I'm the owner running the shop, not only am I working like physically working, like making drinks, making food, working the cash, I'm also kind of thinking a little bit ahead, the next step, because if you're not thinking ahead, you're kind of going to fall behind. So I'm always, so I might not seem like it, but I'm always thinking ahead. If I were to like pull a drink, and then I notice it's the last drink, oh, I gotta write it. I'm gonna write it down. Hey, I need to order this next, or I make a mental note when I make the order tomorrow. Hey, I know we're missing this certain drink. So there's always a duality to my job that I think people might not see. They just see me serving them, but they're not going to see me thinking or kind of making mental notes about the next step. So that's kind of, yeah, that's what I might say. And also like we might in the shop we might be serious and getting the job done because we're professionals, but at the same time we're really having fun and we're always laughing and joking all the time, and it's really a good time. It's just the job is there, we're kind of professional in the sense that we want to get a job done right, and we're not trying to we're trying to give a good product to the customer. We're not trying to BS the customer at all. Some places you might go, they kind of just they want their money in and out. We're kind of always trying to provide a good product, and we're passionate about it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, is I was just thinking of something that I wanted to ask, and I can't believe more. Oh, so as somebody who owns a deli, are there things that you look at when you go into somebody else's deli that you like? Is there anything you'd ever see in another person's deli where you'd be like, you know what, I am not going to order any food here? Like, I'm like, is there any warning signs for people to like
Uh,
immediately turn around and don't buy anything from this place?
uh, not yeah. I might not even walk into that deli if I just from the outside I could just tell the operation or something, the way people are. Are they ready to make food and stuff like that? So, but if I do happen to walk in and I see maybe just like a bunch of fruit flies just flying in the area, or just the people behind the counter just don't seem like interested in making my food or something like that, I might say, oh, this is a place that doesn't necessarily want my business. But I definitely, when it comes to when I after ordering something and tasting it, I'm definitely always kind of subconsciously kind of just assessing the food and stuff like that. But my wife always bugs me every time we go out to eat. I'm always like being critical of food we eat because I'm like I'm in the food business, so I can't help myself.
Yeah,
So that's kind of what it is, you know. But
yeah,
so that's the curse of being in the food business, is every time you go out and spend money for food, you're kind of being critical of it.
yeah. It's hard
And
to just
and
enjoy.
either bad or good critical, but just you're always thinking about it.
Yeah. I had asked this question of somebody who worked at a wine shop, and I was like, "Well, how do you assess the a wine shop?" And for him, he said it depended. He would notice how the coworkers treat each other. So in his mind, he's like, if they're treating each other well, then they're going to be treating me well, and that means they take their responsibilities seriously.
That's
If
a good
they're
point.
ignoring each other or whatever, then he might be less inclined.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah. But if I walk into a business, I feel like I do feel ashamed if I just walk out without buying something, because they're also a business. So when I do walk in, I'm probably gonna get something regardless of how I assess like the situation, but
Bottle
I
of
do
water.
hesitate to walk into a shop. There's some shops that I see where it's like they kind of have all the windows covered and like I can't see in the shop, and I say, I'm in my head, I'm like, why are you covering? When people walk by, particularly in Brooklyn or Manhattan, they want to see what's going on before they walk in. People always like to be prepared before they go somewhere, particularly in a business. So I'm like, why? So I always think like that. You got to be open, show what's going on,
Yeah.
So that's what I think about before going. If I can't see what's going on, then I might kind of hesitate to go into any kind of shop, but particularly food business. Obviously, some
Interesting.
restaurants they're closed, but like a quick service kind of business, a cafe or deli, you want to see what's going on because you want to have prepare yourself before walking in, and people are just more comfortable like that to know what's ahead of them as far as just. walking in.
Yeah, interesting. I'd never thought of that, but that's so true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why if you look at our store, we have it like all the windows are it's kinda just like open. So when you walk in, you see the person, the cashier, so you go, "Oh, it's a quick sale. It's I could walk in and out." If you walk by, you don't see anything or you don't see anyone behind the counter, in your head, you might say, "Oh, I don't have enough time to go in and out quickly." So it's being present and being ready to serve and stuff like that. It definitely allows people to kinda come in more comfortably and brings in more people as
Mhm.
well.
Is it okay if somebody walks in and uses the ATM and walks out, or is that is that not sufficient?
Yeah, that's great.
That's it.
No, it's great. I know some people do that. They kinda walk out, they kinda, like, shrug their head a little bit, like, in a little bit of embarrassment, like they didn't buy anything, but no, 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 I'm always like, "Thank you, have a good day." We're, no, we make we make a buck on every ATM or something. It's not our ATM, but we have it in partnership with the ATM company. So we're still making a little bit of money on that, so we're not. No, 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 we don't get upset about that. Even if someone walks in, some people sometimes they walk in and they look around, they go, "Oh, you know what? I don't need anything. I decide like I changed my mind." I go, "Okay." We go, "Okay, have a great day." We're not, we're kind of because the neighborhood treats us well, so we treat everyone with respect the same way.
Yeah.
We're not in it for money. We're in it just to be kind of be a neighborhood shop and just, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And then as a parent, one of my pet peeves, or at least one of the things that I try to be hyper aware of, and I might not all the time, for which I apologize, is that like when my kids are looking at the drinks, I really like obsess about like, please don't open the refrigerator door until you know what you're gonna get. And then also the ice cream thing too. It's the same thing. Just keep it closed. Look at what you want, and then let's grab it. But don't keep it open the whole time.
Yeah, those are small things. Yeah,
Okay.
we get used to that. No, no, we don't. If I or my mother or the employees were to get like annoyed about every little thing like that, we would have like worn ourselves out by now. You just gotta take everything with a grain of salt and it's just little things like that. They don't bother us at all, really.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
And
it's
then
interesting. Yeah.
okay.
Some
Yeah. So
people, yeah, they do. Some people definitely like leave the freezer door open or stuff like that, or little things like that. But we don't really get too annoyed by it.
well, it's interesting because what you're saying is almost more like, instead of like focusing in on the specific act, it sounds like whether you've done this intentionally or not is like you're trying to create a more neighborly atmosphere. In which case, in aggregate, people are more likely to do the right thing, but some people aren't because they're flaky, or they're absent-minded, or they're just distracted. And but you're addressing it in a different way. I think whether you realize it or not, it's just being a
Yeah.
more friendly communal place.
Yes. Yes. That's a good point. Yeah, I think people reflect other people and others people's actions in the way they are. So if you're treating everyone with respect and being nice and stuff like that, you get that same respect back. I think that's with any facet in life, in politics, in business, and in your personal life, and anything. So if like they say, you want to be the change that you want to see, you have to be it and live it. And yeah, we definitely want to create that kind of community place where kids come in and they just hang out and they feel comfortable to hang out. Some stores they go to, they don't feel comfortable, or the parents don't feel comfortable telling the kids to, hey, you go to Bonafide and hang out there for 15 minutes while you wait for the bus or wait for the school or whatever it may be. We want to be that place because that's just the way we are. We're like that, but also because we want to, push that same kind of mentality on everyone that we meet and in the neighborhood as well.
Yeah, no, I like how you have the couple of chairs like scattered around and the little like kind of bar area looking out the window. Like it's like a place where you can relax for a few minutes if you want. That
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and how is it for you? Like where you are, you've got like the cable news coming at you all the time, and all the newspapers blaring all like the sensationalized news. Do you ever have to like turn it off, or like turn the newspapers over so you don't see all the drama that's out there?
Yeah, I try not to read. The only newspaper I read is the Wall Street Journal that I get to my house every day. I don't read the New York Post or the Daily News, or I don't really think those are like newspaper. I think those are more just like the People magazine, but just of news. You know what I mean? They kind of just want to get your attention. that much substance to those. So I try to stay away. And then TV, I just try to put on like any soccer game that's on, but sometimes there's no choice. The news is on. That's the only thing that's on the TV. So we do turn it off every now and then, because every time you turn on any network, NBC, ABC, Fox, anything, all you hear is bad words or tragedies and stuff like that. So yeah, if I hear, I turn it off. Sometimes you get caught up by accident, and you're listening to it, and that's just we try to turn it off for sure.
Yeah, no, I remember one
Yeah.
time I was talking to a client, to a wine shop client, and he had like CNN on in the background, and like I felt myself getting growingly stressed, even though I wasn't even listening to what they're saying. It was just
Yes.
like the tone of the news was like making me all like, "Oh my god, the world's ending."
I know, I know. I know. Listen, they're a business too, and the goal of a business is to survive and thrive. So like, they want everyone's attention, and there's so many TV shows now, and there's so many things to YouTube and everything. So the news, they have to be even more attention driven to kind of get your attention, because there's so many different avenues to take your attention nowadays. So I think that makes, like you said, just drama and tragedies. They're playing on our psyche, as far as the human mind wants to kind of, they get attracted to that negative psyche, because that's our instinct, is to think like that. So I think, yeah, so that's unfortunate, but they're a business. So until you change the business side of things, you're not going to change the way they operate.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah,
don't watch anymore, so there at least
you don't.
I'm not trying not to give them. I'm trying not to give them my eyeballs or my money.
Ex- exactly. That's the best thing, is to protest, is by not watching. If people don't turn on the TV to watch the news, and their rating, like hypothetically, if their ratings become 1,000 for one night, they can't pay their bills and they don't survive. But
Yeah, yeah, and there's lots of other good things to read about. So,
exactly,
all
yeah.
right, well, we've hit the hour mark. I'm sure you've either got some free time that you want to enjoy, or some spreadsheets or orders to put in, or something. So,
I have to cut the lawn today,
all
because
right,
housework today. So
all right.
Thursday is my housework day. Yeah.
All right. But before we wrap up, can I ask, like, what gives you hope at the end of the day?
It's a good question. I think my kids give me hope when I see my son James and my daughter Layla, and I look them in the eye and just give them a hug. That really gives me hope for the future, and just in general. They're the main reason why I work so hard, and why I put in so much effort into my professional life, is so I could come home and give that life for them, and they give me the most hope, to be honest.
Wonderful. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for making time to chat today. It's been a real pleasure. I appreciate it.
Me too, Michael. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you to all the listeners and viewers out there. May you go out and explore our country with curiosity, respect, compassion, and humility. All right. Take care. I know I'll see you soon.
Thank you. See ya.